Hi, guys. So I'm going to attempt to read chapters 8 and 9. Hopefully, this link works today. If not, remember Mr. Ruble uploaded the PDF for Maniac Magee. Hopefully, you guys like it. Chapter 8. And how he came to be called Maniac. We're going to find out why he got his name. The town was buzzing. The schools were buzzing. Hallways, lunchrooms, streets, playgrounds, West End, East End, buzzing about the new kid in town. The strange kid, scraggly, carrying a book, flat-soled sneakers. The kid who intercepted Brian Dennehy's pass to hands down and punted it back longer than Dennehy himself ever threw it. The kid who rescued Arnold James from Finsterwold's backyard. The kid who tattooed giant John McNabb's fastball for half a dozen home runs, then circled his sacks on a bunted frog. Nobody knows who said it first, but somebody must have. Kid's gotta be a maniac. And somebody else must have said, yeah, regular maniac. And somebody else, yeah. And that was it. Nobody except Amanda Beale had any other name for him. So pretty soon, when they wanted to talk about the new kid, that's what they called him. Maniac. The legend has a name, but not an address. At least not an official one, with numbers. What he did have was the deer shed at the Elmwood Park Zoo, which is where he slept his first few nights in town. What the deer ate, especially the carrots, apples, and day-old hamburger buns, he ate. He started reading Amanda Beale's book his second day in town and finished it that afternoon. Ordinarily, he would have returned it immediately, but he was so fascinated by the story of the Children's Crusade that he kept it and read it the next day, and the next. When he wasn't reading, he was wandering. When most people wander, they walk. Maniac Magee ran around town, around the nearby townships, always carrying a book, keeping it in perfect condition. This is what he was doing when his life, as it often seemed to do, took an unexpected turn. Chapter 9. John McNabb had never in his life met a kid he couldn't strike out. Until the runt. Now, as he thought about it, he came to two conclusions. One, he couldn't stand having this blemish on his record. Two, if you beat a kid up, it's the same as striking him out. So McNabb and his pals went looking for the kid. They called themselves the Cobras. Nobody messed with them, at least nobody in the West End. The Cobras had heard that the kid hung around the park and the tracks, and that's where they spotted him one Saturday afternoon, on the tracks by the path that ran from Oriole Street dead end to the park. He was down by Red Hill and heading away from them, book in hand as usual. But the Cobras just stood there, stunned. I don't believe it, one Cobra said. Must be a trick, said another. I heard about it, said another, but I didn't believe it. It wasn't a trick, it was true. The kid was running on the rail. McNabb scooped up a handful of track stones. He launched one. He snarled, he's dead. Let's get him. By the time Maniac looked back, they were almost on him. He wobbled once, leaped from the rail to the ground, and took off. He was at the Oriole Street dead end and took off. But his instinct said no, not the street, too much open space. He stuck with the tracks. Coming into view above him was the house on Raco Hill, where he had eaten spaghetti. He could go there, to the whistling mother, the other kids, be safe. They wouldn't follow him in there, would they? Stones clanked off the steel rails. He darted left, skirted the dump, wove through the miniature mountain range of the stone piles and into the trees. Skiing. On his heels down the steep bank, into the creek, frogs plopping, no time to look for stepping rocks, yells behind him now, war whoops, stones pelting the water, stinging his back. The other side through the tree and picker bushes, past the armory jeeps and out to the park boulevard, past the Italian restaurant on the corner, the bakery, screeching tires, row houses, streets, alleys, cars, porches, windows, faces staring, faces, the town whizzing past Maniac, a blur of faces, each face staring from its own window, each face in its own personal frame, its own house, its own address, some place to be when there was no other place to be. How lucky to be a face staring out from a window. And then, could it be? The voices behind him were growing faint. He slowed, turned, stopped. They were lined up a street a block back. They were still yelling and shaking their fist, but they weren't moving off the curb. And now they were laughing. Why were they laughing? The Cobras were standing at Hector Street. Hector Street was the boundary between the East and West Ends, or to put it another way, between the blacks and the whites. Not that you never saw a white in the East End or a black in the West End. People did cross the line now and then, especially if they were adults and it was daylight.